If you ever tried rolling a die, you know that every time we roll, we might get a different side of the die. Which side we'll get is up to our chance. The outcome is random and could be different each time we roll. We learned that JavaScript let us create random numbers which we can use to add variety and a surprise in our programs. For example, we can randomly create player in a game application, or we can intro our home page by randomly selecting a photo to display each time someone visits our site, or randomly select a question as part of a survey application. Each of these tasks starts with creating a random number. Generating a random number in JavaScript is quite straightforward. It's an operation built into JavaScript by a method named Math.random. Let's look at the documentation for the Math.random method on the Mozilla Developer Network. You can find the link in the description below. So here it's saying that Math.random returns a floating point pseudo-random number in the range of 0 to 1. That not including 1. Let's see how it works. To code along with me, first download the course folder from the link in the description below and open it with your favorite code editor. Here I'm using Visual Studio Code. From the course folder, open the exercise folder called JavaScript Numbers. And then open the index.html file using Google Chrome. Here I'll also open the JavaScript console. In the index.html file, remember to link the randomnumber.js file. First, let's do some experiments in the JavaScript console. I'll start by typing math.random. And I'll run it a few times in the console to see what happens. Again, in the console, we can press the up arrow key to display the previous command. Then we can either edit that code or press enter to run that code again. As you can see, Math.random returns a random number with lots of decimal places, but never the number 1. Let's say that we want to program the roll of a 6-sided die. We want to get any number from 1 up to 6, and that includes 6. Well, Math.random returns a number that's between 0 and 1. So we could start by multiplying that by 6. Let's see what this returns. I'll try this a few times. Okay, now I'm getting numbers that vary in value between little over 0 to over 5. They still all have a decimal values, however, but I want an integer value like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. And JavaScript Math Object provide a couple of methods to help with this. For example, Math.floor and Math.ceil both convert decimal values to integers. You provide a number to each of these and they return a new value. The Math.floor method rounds the number down. For example, if you provide Math.floor the number 5.2, it returns the number 5. The Math.ceil method, on the other hand, rounds the number up. For example, if you provide Math.ceil the number 5.2, it returns the number 6. Now, if the number is already an integer, then the methods return that value. For example, if I pass 5 to Math.ceil, it returns 5. And if I pass 5 to Math.floor, it also returns 5. So now I'll use the Math.floor method to help around the number to proper value for the random number generator. Since Math.random return a number value, I can provide that method to Math.floor like this. This might look a little bit complicated right now, so let's break this down by looking at each part of the code. In JavaScript and programming in general, code runs inside out. In simple words, what's inside the innermost parenthesis happens first. In this case, Math.random times 6 gets evaluated before the Math.floor method. And this makes sense, because Math.floor needs a number provided to it before it can do anything. Let's again start with Math.random, which returns a value from 0 to a decimal value up to 1, but not including 1. Most of the time, Math.random returns a really long decimal value like this. When we multiply the number Math.random returns by 6, it returns a new number but still with lots of decimal numbers. Finally, if we provide that number to Math.floor, the method rounds it down to an integer. I'll run this a few times. And notice how each time it returns a random integer. In fact, this code will always return a value between 0 and 5. But I want random number between 1 and 6. Well, to make that happen, I'll need to add 1 to Math.floor. And this will ensure that I'll get a number between 1 and 6. I'll run this a few times. So now you might be asking, why don't you just use Math.ceil? It rounds upwards, so a number over 5 would round up to 6, right? Well, this might seem like a good idea and would make it so that we didn't have to add 1 at the end of the statement to produce the number from 1 to 6. Unfortunately, with that approach, there is a chance that you might end up with a 0. Remember, Math.random returns a number in the range of 0 up to but not including 1. So the random number returned could be 0, and using Math.ceil on 0 returns 0. So with that approach, there is a chance you would end up with numbers from 0 up to and including 6. With Math.floor plus 1, we make sure that the lowest number returned is 1 instead of 0. Alright, now let's see how we could use this random number generator in a program. For example, let's make a program same as rolling a die in the casino. In randomnumber.js file, I'll start by creating a variable named DieSide to store the result of a random number from 1 to 6. Next, I'll generate the random number like this. Math.random. This will return random number from 0 up to but not including 1 with decimal values. I'll multiply this by 6. Now this will return random number from 0 up to but not including 6, but still with decimal values. Then I'll pass this returned random number to Math.floor. And this will return random integer number from 0 to 5. When rolling a die in the casino, the lowest number of returns should be 1 and the highest 6. So I'll add 1 to the end to make sure that I get a number from 1 to 6. Finally, I'll display the result in the console. I'll type a set of backticks to make a template literal and write the message. The die side is $, curly braces, die side, and period. Remember, the $sign and curly braces syntax inserts the value of the die side variable into the string. Let's see how it works. I'll save the change, refresh the page, and this time die side is 4. Each time I refresh, the console displays a random number between 1 and 6. This time is 5, and this time is 1, this time is 3, and this time is 2. Good.